It gives me great pleasure to bring on board Mr. Salil Parekh of Infosys, and perhaps my opening remark and words may not capture how excited we are at ET now, because we're getting not a rare opportunity, but we're getting a rarest of the rarest opportunity to speak to one of the most profound IT CEOs in the country. Mr. Parekh, fantastic to have you back, and thank you for joining us. I hope everything is fine, safe with you personally and with the Infosys employees.
Well, thank you, Nikunj, and thank you all for having me on this session. It's a real pleasure for me to be joining you. Yes, everything on a company front and personal front is fine, and I'm really delighted to share some of our thoughts with you as we go through the session.
Mr. Parekh, I'm going to take the conversation up from where your last official public conversation was, which is along with your Q4 numbers. A lot has changed after that, both in terms of how the crisis has evolved, how economies have opened, and how economies have shut down. You were cautiously optimistic in the month of April when you spoke last, but that was April end. It is June beginning now. In your assessment, has anything changed between April and now?
You know, Nikunj, a lot of things have changed. And let me share a few thoughts, and then we can come back to more specifics as well. First, we've gone through a tremendous transition where we've stabilized operations. Our primary focus was the safety of our employees. And I really want to thank all our employees who've done an incredible job of providing service to our clients. The second objective was to make sure all our client service delivery was absolutely as per our commitments. And the third, of course, with all the changes that were going on, we wanted to make sure Infosys was taking all the right steps for the present, but also for the long-term future of the company, its clients and employees. What has now happened, and I'd shared then, we got about 93% of our employees working from home. Today, of course, all of our work is being done extremely efficiently. The majority of our employees are working from home at this stage as well. However, some of our campuses are open again. 5% of our employees are already working from campuses. Our approach has been extremely flexible and open, where we've shared with our employees that they are welcome to come back. There are some client situations where it's been very useful to have that. But in general, all of our service deliveries worked extremely well. The second, we've seen many of the segments that we talked about then, for example, retail or manufacturing, we see that those obviously had some difficulties. But the other segments, sectors, industries are starting to look quite okay. At that stage, we didn't know how this was going to play out. Today, a few weeks later, we see that many of those other sectors are actually in a good shape. And we see as many of the Western markets, the European countries, the US states are opening up. We see some of those things in the economy is coming back. Of course, now we are much more careful with the cases in India still going up in a small percentage. We want to be extremely cautious as how we manage our service delivery going forward. So many things have changed, but I remain overall quite positive because the pace of acceleration of technology is really become faster. We see the adoption of digital, the adoption of cloud going even at a faster pace with our clients. And those were the themes that we were driving before. And I feel that those are the themes that are going to become faster as we come out of this.
So hypothetically, if you have to announce your numbers tomorrow morning, are you in a position to give a guidance? Because you shied away from giving a guidance largely because of the messy environment we were in. At least the Western world was in a messy environment in April.
Yeah, in terms of the guidance, we'd said at the end of March, early April, that we didn't have visibility for the full year. At this stage, we will make a decision of that as we end the quarter. The way normally guidance works, at least in our business, we typically have a good idea in a non-COVID or let's say a normalized environment of what's going on a quarter or two ahead. And then we have a good trend line based on large deals and other indicators of how the future quarters look like. So at the end of this quarter, we will relook at it and come back to what we do with the guidance.
Now, a scary word which Infosys has used in the past is profit warning. So what you are saying is that, look, folks, this is not a profit warning. This is a pure acknowledgement of what is good and what is bad. And this is not like some profit warning which you've spelled out.
That's right. If you look at the 20F filings from previous years, we as a responsible corporate provide all of the possible situations which can be concerning and which are opportunities within our business. And that's how 20F filings are reflected normally.
How has your business changed? What has your client communication been? Because historians, they like to divide the world into BC and AD. The modern businessmen are like to divide the world into pre-COVID and post-COVID.
What's happened here, Nikunj, is as a consequence of this, in fact, the connect with our clients has significantly increased in the sense of more communication through these channels of video communications almost on a daily basis. And what I've learned from those communications is many of our clients, especially if I take companies which are not today in retail, and I'll come back to retail or some level of manufacturing, are really accelerating what they're driving through digital or cloud adoption. What I mean by that, I was in a discussion 2 weeks ago with the US client CIO, and their discussion was how do they enable their sales force to use digital much faster, because that's one of the only ways in this world, in this environment, to connect with their end customers and clients. We also see where the segments that are impacted, there's also faster adoption, but almost with the view of what is the most affordable way to get this adoption done. So then I come back to, if you recall, when we had shared our strategy maybe a couple of years ago, our focus was very much on playing and approaching this world through a digital lens. If you saw our last quarter, Q4 of last year, our digital business was growing at 38% and was about 42% of the overall company. So my takeaway really is that all of that is going to go faster and accelerate. So while we'll have some discretionary spend which is impacted because of the COVID situation, and we may have some near-term impact, in the medium and long term, I'm actually more optimistic of where we are ending up. And if you see the annual report note that I wrote, but my own thinking there is we are on a very good trajectory where we're going to drive all of the transformation that our clients are going through on their digital and cloud journey.
When you say near-term challenges are there, would you like to define them?
What we see is, the sectors we talked about, they're going through a lot of difficulty. So there's going to be some constraints in what kind of spending they do on discretionary projects, which are more long-term contracts, are more stable. But what are more discretionary, they will have to be careful, because you look at some of those businesses, a large part of the revenue in a short instance has gone away. My sense is as that starts to come back, those projects will come back. And the near-term nature of this is difficult to define, but certainly it's in the nature of a quarter or two from what we see today.
So can I safely assume that there have been no large massive cancellations and there is no large drop in billing rates?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think we have seen quite positively, there's been no large cancellation. And overall, we've been seeing, except for the sectors where there's some impact, no real impact on our pricing as well.
Do you think clients are still engaging with you for billion-dollar deals? You had a hallmark deal which you announced in your Q4 numbers. Is the new normal changing the size of the deal, or how are big deals moving? Let me put it this way.
What's happening there, Nikunj, is we are seeing many of our clients. I was with a bank CIO on one of these discussions 3 weeks ago. And there the discussion was how we've done this transition so effectively, when we went through work from home. There we start to see that they want to consolidate their work away from some small partners, but also in discussions, some larger partners who've not handled it so well. So my sense is if we do this well, if we engage with our clients well, we continue to build that trust, we might see some of those large deals coming up even in the future as we look at this COVID environment. So I don't think the large deal momentum necessarily disappears. It's a different kind of a large deal environment. Of course, again, in the near term, decision making will be a bit slower, but this type of consolidation opens up new opportunities for us.
So where do you think the industry is headed? I remember a couple of quarters ago, you said that Infosys is working towards becoming a company which wants to grow higher than the industry average.
Right. So the way, again, if you look at the last 2 years, last year we grew at 9.8%, the year before at 9%. We're very much, I would say, the fastest growing large tech services company. My sense is we want to keep that momentum going, but it's really a function of how we work with our clients and how they choose to trust us. So in itself, it's not a goal. The goal for us is become a trusted partner or remain a trusted partner with our clients as they go on their digital and cloud journey. And if we can do that well, if we have the right capabilities, my sense is the rest will follow. The rest being whether it's large deals, whether it's the growth, whether it's rewarding all of our stakeholders. Those are outcomes that will follow if we stay with our clients in their journey.
But if I have to talk about the trajectory, like you spoke about the digital trajectory, which is 40% of the business, perhaps it was 10 years ago or 12 years ago. Right. In terms of a trajectory, will Indian IT sector see a big reboot in SG&A expenses, travel expenses, on-site expenses? These are very large costs and historical costs. And now companies have the ability or the courage, both are the right words, ability and the courage to experiment there, bring the cost down permanently.
I think on SG&A or in general in cost efficiency, my sense is certainly Infosys, but my guess is the industry at large will look at what are the most effective ways of using that cost. And as you say, if the travel can be replaced in a steady state with more communication in this method, as we are communicating, I'm sure it will be done. But again, we have to make sure once we get to that, let's say the new steady state, what is the competitive dynamic and how is it critical in building relationships, in ensuring that complete understanding of the situation carries on from a business and social perspective. So there will definitely be efficiencies, but my sense is too early to say that you're going to see X% come out on a permanent basis.
We've always looked at the number of hiring, which is more like in forward guidance from any IT company to understand which way business or the revenue run rate is moving. But do you think now there could be a complete reboot in the way you would hire? Because work at home will change productivity levels. The need of skill and demand would be different. So on the employee front, how does one really judge now? We work with the linear model. X hiring means X employee because we understand the productivity utilization level. Now it's difficult for me to fathom because work at home changes all the calculations.
Well, in some ways it changes the calculation on hiring, but overall, once again, we see what is the steady state of the work from home approach or even the approach that will develop post some of the medical milestones. My sense is the hiring is still an important part of our industry. We see the technology demand, as I was sharing earlier, being quite critical in the digital and cloud areas. So my suggestions to college graduates, wherever they are, if they're looking at the tech world, those are the areas that one should invest in. And I know that most college students in the tech education are investing in that. And there's a very bright future for those areas, whether it's with Infosys or broadly in the technology world.
So when will your HR managers be back in campuses hiring them?
So what we've done with recruitment today is all of the offers we'd given before this started, we are honoring. So we made that statement. In fact, my colleagues made that statement in the April discussion, and we are staying with that. In terms of new, so additional hiring, we will now look at how the demand looks as we go through week by week, month by month, quarter by quarter. And my sense is as we see more of a stabilization of the demand, we'll be back to that sort of recruitment as well.
What is happening in the India business? It's a completely different kettle of fish, so to speak. Our compulsions, our requirement, and our delivery models are very different. It's not a very big business, but it's a business which will have a meaningful impact for Infosys because it's been a growing business for you.
For the India business, we have an extremely small but very impactful India business. The approach we've taken is we do a small amount of work for the private sector, a small amount of work for the public sector, some at the central level, some at a state level. And our intent there is to do work which really redefines the level of technology impact that we can have. So from that perspective, it's not really very large part of the overall Infosys business. So far, we've been, before the COVID situation, very happy with that business. We think we will see some impact there as well, like we're seeing in all of the global markets. And we'll wait and see how that comes out as the days, weeks, and quarters go by.
What are the tough decisions you've taken as the CEO of Infosys? Because every company has been forced to take tough decisions, whether it is on automation or employee front or cost cutting. So what are the tough decisions you've taken?
From our perspective, if you're asking the tough decision in the last few weeks, really, we've been fortunate that we've taken decisions which have pivoted us more to this cloud and digital world and made us much more cost efficient, frankly, with the measures you described. For example, travel is much less and so on. So in that sense, I don't see those as being tough decisions. What we've been extremely careful about is the safety of our employees. And that's a clear message we've had all through, starting with how we shared our updates with our board. That's the primary driver, and that's helped us guide how we do any decision making that we've gone through.
Just to understand the important point which you referred to, and I don't want to get this one wrong, you are clearly indicating that the relevance of IT services, a company like Infosys has only become stronger and better in terms of client engagement. So what are the sound bites you're picking up from your top 3 or top 5 clients? Are they ready to engage more, or are they ready to give you business, but the business will only come back end?
So a few things that seem to be top of mind with some of our clients. One is, how do you accelerate the journey to the cloud? Because today, there's a real need to have all of the data, all of the apps that our clients are running easily accessible from anywhere, especially because of remote working, but just to keep the business going. So is there a method where that can go faster? Second, are there ways to be more flexible and more efficient in the way costs are driven? So automation has become a big part. That was something that was really strong for Infosys all this time, and we see that becoming even stronger. The third, can we consolidate more with Infosys? We've seen your transition, the way you've done this work from home goes so well. Can we do more things with you? So those are the sorts of things I'm hearing now. What we need to do, obviously, is take all of that good intent and make sure we convert that to more work for Infosys once some of the immediate pressures of the COVID situation start to dissipate. And that's my hope, some near-term impact, but really the medium and long-term starting to look quite good.
In this lockdown, what has been your toughest moment? When was the day when you said, look, I'm worried, I'm scared, I'm worried about what's happening? And what has been the biggest joyful moment for you?
The toughest moment in terms of worried, I think, when we started to see the cases really growing extremely fast, in some of our client markets, that gave a real pause to me and to our leadership team and the board as to what is the eventual impact of all of this going to be. And that became quite difficult because these are the sorts of things can have a tremendous negative impact on a company. On a personal level, obviously, there was for me a lot of concern for our employees and their safety because we have operations in 40 countries, and also on a personal level with my family and making sure that we were safe, the environment around was safe. I think the biggest joy really is to see how our employees have come together and made sure that with their safety, they've looked after the interests of our clients. And that something is difficult to express because it's a real spirit I find of the people within Infosys and the way the senior team has also worked, in part because of the social capital, but in part just because of the bonding that's come together. So that's been a huge source of joy for me.
First, Infosys and now Wipro. Two companies or two of the biggest companies now will have CEOs who are former employee of Capgemini. Happy coincidence of too much of heat and dust and intense competition now when it comes to pitching for deals?
Well, I think it's a tremendous thing. Thierry is a good friend of mine, and I wish him and Wipro all the best. We are, we've known each other for a number of years, so I look forward to working very closely from an industry perspective, and the rest we'll see in the market how it goes.
When I normally meet CEOs, we always try as journalists to judge them on body language. On a Zoom call, we cannot judge the body language. So I'll use the sign language, which is that along with your Q4 numbers, you said the future of Infosys is not thumbs down, it is not thumbs up, it's a flat thumb, which is you can't predict. Along with your next numbers, do you think you would be able to say it is thumbs up back for Infosys?
As I'm sharing today, and we'll wait and see how the quarter ends, we see that many of the sectors outside of the ones directly impacted are actually doing quite okay. The opening up of the economies is looking quite positive so far. Of course, there could be a second wave, and of course, we have to see the India numbers getting to be slower and slower. But outside of that, I would definitely say my own sense is technology is a positive trend. We are well positioned at Infosys for cloud and digital, and therefore I'm quite positive, optimistic, and bullish.
A broader message for students. It's unfortunate, but for campus students and for young students, it's almost like a gap year now. The hard work is not getting rewarded because of the pain in the economy. A lot of people are anxious, some are curious, some are nervous, and some are even disappointed. What would you tell them?
My message really to all of those students is, and I speak both for tech, but for everyone in general, be patient. This is something that the whole world is looking to solve, this medical situation. We've done a tremendous job in India of making sure that we can have as safe an environment as is feasible, given all the constraints that we have. And we've managed to work the cases as well as we have so far. So my advice would be to be patient and give it some time. Once this is sorted, we know that we have a real high growth, high energy environment out there. And all of these students coming out will find a place in it.
Uday Kotak, a couple of days ago, tweeted that why do we need to go to Google campuses to get those jobs? Why can't the ordinary Indian talented engineering student work from his home because work at home is normal? Do you think that's the new India now? That we've got to think big, aspire to be big, and Infosys can make it possible?
I absolutely think one should think big and aspire big. I think the work from home is a phenomenal concept as we've discussed. But I think there's also something about working in teams, collaboration, and we also need to build digital tools to enable that. But there will always, at least here in the next few years, be a need for some social connects. And we should not underestimate those. When we keep all of those in mind, the opportunities globally are still out there, but we do need to understand that in some instances, over time, there'll be both work on campus or in office locations and also work from home. So much more of a flexible or hybrid combination.
It's taken us a lot of persuasion to convince you for a long format interview, but I'm so glad that you finally accepted our request. It's been an absolute pleasure interacting with you, sir. Stay safe and thank you very much.
Thank you, Nikunj, and thank you for taking the time to do this. Take care.
Thank you very much, sir. Stay safe. Lovely talking to you, Mr. Parekh. Lovely.
Thanks, Nikunj. Take care. Bye.